Hello and welcome to this special edition of Economics 101, a program that touches on the country's economic issues. Today on the program, we are discussing the negative impact of illegal economic sanctions that were imposed on Zimbabwe by the United States and its allies. In studio today, I am joined by Mr. Martin Zharare, the Executive Director, as well as Ms. Mandikunda Chivese, the chairlady of the Citizens Against Economic Sanctions. I myself, I am Curtly Gwindi. And, speaking on the issue of economic sanctions, I would like to believe many have actually come out and controversially said, I think I'll start the discussion on a controversial note. They have said that these economic sanctions are much to do about nothing.
Wow. Thank you, Ketli, for saying that. And seriously speaking, there are some people who are saying Zimbabwe is not on economic sanctions.
Yes.
And that is true madness. I was even reading today's papers. One of our biggest papers was saying, people are saying there are no sanctions in Zimbabwe.
Absolutely.
And if you look at our country and the way things are moving, and if you look at, firstly, to say there is a rapporteur on the negative effects of sanctions. Elana Duhane from the UN, who is here in Zimbabwe, was sent by the UN to come and witness for herself, the effects of these economic sanctions on Zimbabwe. So for somebody to say there are no sanctions, it's sheer madness.
And this is someone's view. What's your take on that?
Waita Ketli. Inini ndinoona kuti ukaona munhu nekuoma kwakaita zvinhu munyika yedu yeZimbabwe nhasi nekuda kwema-sanctions.
Yes, sure.
Achiti musi wa25 izuva rekuti vanhu havafaniri kurirangarira nekuti hapana zviripo.
Yes.
Munhu iyeye ndinomuisa pano paviri.
Yes.
Haana chaanoziva kana kuti ane zvaari kuwana nekutambudzika kuri kuita vazhinji munyika yedu yeZimbabwe.
Yes, indeed. Okay, now that's perfect. That's perfect. And also taking into cognizance, we are building up towards the Anti-Sanctions Day, which is celebrated on the 25th of October this year in 2021. We would like to know, perhaps, how long have you been activists and lobbying for the removal of sanctions?
Yes, thank you. You see, Citizens Against Economic Sanctions, firstly, is an organization that was formed by patriotic Zimbabweans, who had seen that seriously there's something wrong, because we used to say, ma-sanctions in there ZANU-PF, ma-sanctions in there Hurumende ya Mugabe.
Absolutely.
It
So
was
you would
none
say
of our
that was the
business.
known stigma towards the sanctions,
because
or it was a dogmatic expression?
Dogmatic. People didn't know
Absolutely.
sanctions, what are sanctions. But, after hearing a lot our government, crying sanctions, these sanctions, we said, no, something's really not right. And that is how our organization was formed. That was in 2017, 2016, somewhere there, yes. And, as citizens, we said, let us teach each other that sanctions are really there.
Yes.
Sanctions are hitting our country. And these sanctions must be fought with every ounce that we have, and they must be removed from our country.
The President himself,
on
where
the
he says
25th,
the negative impact of sanctions on ordinary Zimbabweans will be highlighted through the testimonies from affected businesses and other population groups, including women, the youth, and vulnerable groups across all socio-economic sectors. Tunambofamba kuna Ms. Chivese timbovabvunza kuti what would you say about this?
Ini inondibata papi, inondibata samai.
Absolutely.
Ndine vana vangu vandakabereka. Pandakabereka vana ndiri kutarisira kuti vana ngavaende kuchikoro, vaenda kuchikoro, vachadzidzawo vachaita mabasa. Zvino inini ndodzidzisa mwana oita doctor. Nenyaya yekuti munyika medu hamusi kushandika zvakanaka. Mwana uya akuenda kunoshanda kuUK, akunoshanda kunze. Kureva kuti automatically pane pandato-deprivewa right yangu saamai yekuti rudo rwandaifanira kunge ndichipuwa nemwana wangu ari pedyo haachakwanisi. Then ukatarisa tine vamwe vana vekuti vana vedu havachatya kupara mhosva. vakutamba njuga, vakumwa madoro mamwe amunoti misombodhia, they are now into drugs, they are now abusing drugs. And as a mother, it all comes back to me as a mother. Because most of the time you find that the mother is the one who will be with the kids at home.
Yes.
Saka ini kana ndine vana pamba anditi ndini ndichaona each and every problem iri kusangana nemwana. Anditi ezvino uri kuona vana vedu vari kukura vachinzi masanctions ndeezanu. Anditi masanctions haasi ezanu. Masanctions ari kuafekta munhu wese wemuno muzimbabwe. Ndoda kukutaurira imwe yatinoita yekuti third party yekuti munhu seller, third party seller yekuti isusu tiri kuda machine muno muzimbabwe kana kuti ngatiti yemuchipatara ndiri maika imi machine hatisi kukwanisa kuiaccessa kuamerica. Iri kufanira kuuya nekusouth africa. South africa payatotambira mushini uya yatoisa markup yayo. Isu sezimbabwe patakuzonoutora mushini uya kuti uye kuno
there's another markup.
Watoiswa imwe markup.
I see.
Saka sana amai masanctions ari kunyanya kukanganisa isusu. Ukatarisa ari kutikanganisa physically. Miri yedu iri kukuvadzwa nekutakura misika zvinorema tichiita mavhenda. Iri kukuvadzwa nekutiza mapurisa murodhi vachida kuti tivatonyore tichivabhadhara. Iri kukuvadzwa nekuti pamwe pachona zvatakuitiswa hazvichaita.
We'll be touching on what the damages are in terms of the sanctions and how they affected the Zimbabweans. I think vataura zvakanaka my Chivese papo. And on this note, I will take a short break and we'll be back. Hello and welcome back to Economics 101, and as we go deeper to unpack the issue of sanctions and their effects to the economy and the generality of Zimbabweans. Now, my name is Curtly Gwindi, and in studio I am joined by Mr. Zharare as well as Ms. Chivese. Continuing with our discussion, with your activism, what sort of impact do you think you have made in order for your message to be heard?
You see, our organization mainly focuses on teaching Zimbabweans about these sanctions and telling Zimbabweans that, guys, wherever you are, let us come together and fight for the removal of these sanctions. So our message has been very straightforward and our message is being heard. And if you look at, how do we measure, we see the membership of organization, we are now represented in all the 10 provinces. And we are having programs that we are spearheading in all the 10 provinces, and our impact is not measurable.
No.
To do more.
Okay.
Yes.
And in terms of the contribution towards Anamai, in terms of the contribution towards Ovana, would you also say they're doing enough, Madam Chivese?
Yeah, inini ndinoona kunge hurumende yedu iri kutibatsira nekuti ukatarisa kana maprogram evana yayo ndo vanenge vachipusha nekuti chakakosha inyaya yekuti vanhu tikwanise kushambadza kana kuti kudzidzisa handiti ka which is imparting our knowledge.
Information is key. Yes.
Saka isusu kana zvakafanana tikatenderwa saizvozvi kuya pano todzidzisa kuti masanction ariko, I think government is doing
enough. Yes, no, that's very true. And Zimbabwe has been under sanctions for close to 2 decades now. And what are some of the things we could have done better to circumvent sanctions?
Vanhu vakawanda, people should understand that these sanctions are coming because of the land issue.
Yes.
It starts there, it ends there. When we took our land from our colonial masters, the British, ndo pakatanga hondo yekunzi matitorera ivhu, saka taakukusungirai zvirango zveupfumi. Saka vanhu veZimbabwe vanofanira kuti paitwe maprogramu akawandisa ekudzidzisa vanhu kuti maBritish akatipa masanctions, maAmerica akatipa masanctions, vana Zidera ivava vauya sei masanctions auya. And also mukaona masanctions iwaya vana America havana ashandisa kuda kubisa hurumende inenge iripo kuisunga mbira dzakondosvika pekupedzisira. Saka hurumende iri kufanira kuita maprograms akawanda ekupinda muzvikoro, mumachechi, kumaruzevha, mumadhorobha, everywhere, ekudzidzisa vanhu kuti masanctions chii.
We would now like to know from you the kind of inroads that you have imposed in terms of convincing other countries, especially those that we are all aware of, kuti vaite or loosen their grip or try and just mitigate the sanctions that have been imposed.
The inroads that we have made as an organization and as a country, the testimony...
So it's a collective effort.
Yes, it's a collective effort. The testimony is right here. Elena Duhain from the UN, the Special Rapporteur on the negative effects of sanctions, she's right here. They have heard our cry to say these sanctions are illegal. These sanctions must be removed. And they have said, you know, firstly, that the UN is the only body that is allowed to impose sanctions on a nation, not another nation imposing sanctions. These sanctions are illegal. So the UN has sent this woman to say, go and gather evidence and hear what these people of Zimbabwe are saying, because these sanctions are illegal. So we are very happy with that. That is the biggest inroad, right? It also comes to those who say there are no sanctions. You see, the answer is right here.
100%.
Our government has done great, a very big job. SADC, you know, as the union of these African countries, the AU and SADC have said October 25 is anti-sanction day in Zimbabwe, because the whole of SADC region, the whole of Africa is reverberating because of the effects of these sanctions. She was talking of her children who are now in South Africa and Canada, in America, brain draining, you know.
And where that contribution could have happened here in Zimbabwe,
and we,
if it wasn't for the
and we are putting so much pressure in the service delivery of
100%,
those nations,
100%,
you know. So the effects are for everybody to see. Our factories here are closed. Bulawayo used to be a giant in manufacturing, you know, and now they're just shares. And we're doing a lot to mitigate that as a country from meager resources that we have.
Are there any partners in terms of organizations or, you know, foreign or domestic organizations that you have worked with, in terms of especially those that particularly touch on the girl child, the woman, as well as children?
We are working nevanhu vacho vari pasi vatiri kudzidzisa nekuti takaona kuti ukatarisa zvinhu zviri kuitika muno ndezvekuti vamwe vedu havazivi handiti. Saka taakuti isusu tiri kudzika pasi tichidzidzisa vanhu kuti aiwa masanctions amuri kunzi America yakauyisa nekuti hamuna mahuman rights. Ko iko kwavo mahuman rights avanochengeta ndeapi? Inga Saddam Hussein akafa wani in the name of human rights zvikazonzi imistake. Inga wani ikoko kwa-America they are killing fellow Americans, ma-black Americans. Ko ma-human rights acho ari pasi.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And on that note, we have come to the end of the second segment of Hello and welcome back to Economics 101. My name is Curtly Gwindi, and we are in the third and final segment of our special edition today, dealing with all things anti-sanctions, a discussion I have been having with Mr. Zharare as well as Ms. Chivese. Looking back through the lenses of history, we realize that even the Rhodesians, under the rule of Ian Smith, were under sanctions, but they managed to make ends meet. What's the difference now between then and now? This takes us back even to what we were saying when we were saying, good, it's much to do about nothing because it's happened before.
There is much, and there's a very big difference. If you look at the Rhodesian system, their sanctions were very soft, and their sanctions were, not as hard and economic as they are to us. And the very people, you see, the British put sanctions on Smith. The Americans were busting the sanctions.
Absolutely.
The Germans were supplying the machinery. The South Africans were supplying the military hardware. During Smith's time, he was the first, his government was the first to buy a Boeing 707. I think there were about 3 or 4, and the whole world was stunned to say, how did that happen when he's under sanction? They were busted 24/7 by the same people who imposed them, because their interests were here. But today, because we have taken what they were saying is dear to them, our land, because they were mining, they were farming. Now they've put real economic sanctions. When we come to that, we will, get a little bit into Zidera, the act that they're using in the American Congress. It stipulates that in Section 4, it says Zimbabwe should not be assisted by any international organization like banks, IMF, World Bank, and any other financial institution. Whosoever deals with Zimbabwe is penalized.
Absolutely.
So you can see ours are real economic sanctions, and we can't do anything. We are struggling. We need these sanctions removed.
Absolutely.
Zimbabwe needs to go forward.
I think kufamba kwenyu, you are also aware that there's a number of women who don't necessarily have the knowledge in terms of what these sanctions actually are and how they are directly, I wouldn't say indirectly, because at this point, at this juncture, it's been 2 decades, there has been an outcry, and we need to be heard. What can you say to the rural or the one who's in the outback of Zimbabwe?
Inini zvandingataure kumadzimai, ma-sanctions haasi ma-targeted sanctions. Ma-sanctions ayakananga munhu wese, asi inzira yana America yavanoshandisa kuti munyika muve nekumukirana, muite yatinoti civil war, vachishandisa vamwe vedu vave vanokara, vanoti avarwadzi vasina moyo, nevamwe vanoti kana ndikaguta ini hazvina basa. Asi ma-sanctions aya, tarirai kuparara kuri kuita dzimba, michato iri kuparara nekuti mudzimba umu mhirizhonga iri kuwanda nenyaya yekutambura. Tarirai kufa kuri kuita vana vedu, tarirai zvinhu muno munyika medu semadzimai hazvina kutimirira zvakanaka nekuti tisi tiri kuramba tichingochengeta nherera.
There's been a talk on the street that generally sanctions are targeted towards the elite, and we will never. In fact, they're not targeted towards the lesser, the middle income as well as the lower income, but rather the higher income. They're the ones who feel the effects. What would you say? What's your take on that?
It will bring back to what kind of sanctions do we have? And where are they coming from? Ma-sanctions atinawo muZimbabwe anyanya kutiuraya munyika medu, ma-sanctions ari kubva kuAmerica akaiswa neinonzi Zidera Act yavanoti iyo Zimbabwe Recovery Act yeCongress iyayi.
Perhaps you can actually expand more on that.
Iyo Zidera iyaya yavanoti Zimbabwe Recovery Act, kune vanoti hakuna ma-sanction ari targeted, ngava verenge Zidera Act. Zidera Act ndo yatati pekutanga vanombonyepa property law, property rights, rule of law, human rights inonzi sugar coating. Asi ukazopinda mukati mezidhera manje ndo mune vana section 4
So the devil's in the detail.
inside ndo muya munonzi Zimbabwe inofana kuti isawaniswe kana chinhu chinoita nezvemari. Sekutaura kwavamboita kuti zvinhu zvacho zvinenge zvakabata mukati, saka masanctions edu vanoti ari targeted, haasi targeted the economic nekuti pane zidhera. Muri kuona zidhera ndo masanction, verengai zidhera iyaiye kune vanoti ari targeted.
And how do people have access to that particular zidhera?
Zidhera act iri pese, ukaiwana kana ukanogoogle ukangoti zidhera inobva yabuda, inobva yati Zimbabwe ba, vese vari kutaura kuti ari targeted vanobva vataura kuti tanga tichinyeperwa. Sekutaura kwavaita kuti kune vamwe vakatonokumbira masanctions aya.
Yes.
Vari muno muZimbabwe vari kutoada, vari kutodza mukadzi auya nhasi kuti vachatosangana naye vachimudza kuti hakuna masanction. Iye anoziva, anongotaura achingonyora. You see, but sanctions are here and they are economic.
And they are real.
They are real.
So taking that into cognizance, we would want to know as well, because I think we had a conversation earlier on, Tichiti, the lady, the rapporteur from the EU, is going to be having a Zoom meeting with your team, with your organization. So we would want to know what outcomes can we expect from that.
The United Nations has discovered that in Zimbabwe they are citizens who are saying sanctions must go. And as our organization, Citizens Against Economic Sanctions, we are having a meeting with her, and we are going to be presenting, the effects of sanctions for the past 20 years, from economy, agriculture, human capital and everything, to her to say, please take this to the UN and say Zimbabweans are saying sanctions must go. We are also grateful that our country has done a lot within this time that we are on sanctions. Look at our roads, rehabilitation, look at a lot of things that are happening. We are very happy with that. And Pumvudza, Command Agriculture, we are very happy, but this is happening under sanctions. And even the World Bank is saying Zimbabwe is doing great in agriculture under sanctions. So they are saying,
as we wrap up our program, in terms of what you would say about this particular day and why it is so important.
Waitako ini ndoda kungoti zuva iri rakatikoshera tese semazimbabweans nekuti kana nyika dzakatitenderedzawo sana South Africa naBotswana vachitibatsira kutaura, this time hatisi kuchema, tiri kutaura nekuti you can find kuti maroads ari kungogadzirwa mumasanctions imomo, mutungamiriri wedu waMnangagwa vari kungozviita, vari kungochinja zvinhu and even zvakaoma asi vari kungoita kuti zvitirerukire, saka tinongoda kuvatenda naizvozvo.
No, thank you very much. And Mr. Zharare, maybe just a short snip of your last words to the people as we look at this day as a very vital and important day in terms of contribution to the Zimbabwean economy.
We are very grateful, and my final words to the people of Zimbabwe is, let's come together, let's fight for this country. We only have got one Zimbabwe. And if we lose it, we lost it, to the British, and they colonized us for hundreds of years, And now we have it back. We have to defend it. Every Zimbabwe, wherever he is, Pauri Papo, do something to to defend this motherland, because they want this country. And if we don't defend it, they will take it.
Very fruitful discussion. Thank you very much, Mr. Zharare, as well as Ms. Chivese. We have unfortunately come to the end of our third and final segment of our special program on Economics 101, which was focusing on sanctions. Please do join us once again next time.